Now, here we even have examples of men in the Old Testament who quote unquote manifested or spoke things or caused things or willed things into existence. Joshua here in the book of Joshua chapter 10 verses 10 to 12, he says, "And the Lord brought them into confusion before Israel, and he struck them down in a great defeat at Gibeon, and pursued them by the way of the ascent to Beth Horon, and struck them as far as Azekah and Makkedah. And they fled from Israel while they were at the descent of Beth Horon. The Lord hurled large stones from heaven on them as far as Azekah, and they died. There were more who died from the hailstones than those who the sons of Israel killed with the sword." Now verse 12, here's what I want you to pay attention to. He said, "Then Joshua spoke to the Lord on the day when the Lord turned," sorry, the text is really small, that's why I'm struggling to read it. Let me make it bigger. Yeah, that's better. He said, "Then Joshua spoke to the Lord on the day when the Lord turned the Amorites over to the sons of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand still at Gibeon, and moon at the valley of Ajalon." And so here Joshua literally commanded the sun and moon to stop. Now, if you study biblical cosmology, God has commanded the sun to make circuit around the earth, right? And what Joshua did is that he spoke to the sun and made the sun stand still at a particular spot. And the moon also in its circuit, he spoke to the moon and made the moon stand still at its spot. See, now, this is a human being who is commanding celestial bodies, and the celestial bodies are obeying him. I'm not talking about manifesting a job. He's speaking to the sun and the moon, and the sun and moon is in your Bible. And the sun and moon are obeying him. He just willed something into existence by his word. So the sun is moving, and then he speaks and gets the sun to stop moving. And so now his words are carrying enough power to manifest a possibility that was not, or I should say, he commanded a possibility that didn't exist beforehand, before the sun is moving, and now the sun isn't moving by his word. He manifested that possibility. Here you have another example of Prophet Elisha in 2 Kings 4:13 to 17. "And he said to him, Say now to her, Behold, you have taken trouble for us with all this care. What can I do for you? Would you like me to speak for you to the king or to the commander of the army?" So this woman is showing great hospitality, and Elisha wants to thank her and appreciate her and honor her for all the hospitality. But she answered, "I live among my own people." So he said, "What then is to be done for her?" And Gehazi, which is his servant, today we'll call his personal assistant. And Gehazi answered, "It is a fact that she has no son, and her husband is old." He then said, "Call her." When he called her, she stood in the doorway. Then he said, "At this season," this is Elisha speaking, a prophet, "at this season next year, you are going to embrace a son." And she said, "No, my lord, you man of God," which means a man sent from God, "do not lie to your servant." Now the woman conceived and gave birth to a son at that season the next year, as Elisha told her. And so here Elisha manifested a literal human being. He spoke a human being into existence. God didn't tell him to say this. He said it by his own impetus, but God backed it because God was in agreement with what Elisha was doing. It's manifesting. There's nothing complicated about this. I'm just trying to show you that manifesting is a biblical concept. There are all kinds of examples like this in the Bible where people spoke things into existence. A guy made the sun stop. A guy made a baby. A guy manifested a human being into existence. Then Jesus causes a fig tree to wither. He manifests a coin out of a fish's mouth, which is what people call miracle money, which is obviously a biblical concept because that was miracle money, is money coming miraculously.